So you're interested in getting started in woodworking. That's cool. Here's the deal. I've been making woodworking videos on YouTube for over a year now, and it occurred to me recently that there's not enough good resources out there for beginning woodworkers, or people who are just interested in it and really don't know where to begin. And I tell you why is because as representatives for this craft, we woodworkers are the worst. We tend to overcomplicate things. We tend to mystify the craft of woodworking and make it seem like you've got to have a whole shop filled with million-dollar tools in order to get started. And we're boring. We make really boring videos, and we're not inspiring people to just get out there and start cutting wood. So this video is dedicated to you, anybody new who is interested in woodworking and wants to get started, and I'm going to show you how you can do it, and you can do it cheap, and you're going to have a lot of fun doing it. So I guess the place to start would be to answer the question of what is woodworking? Really, what is it? What are we doing here? Well, I'm going to tell you. There's three things we're doing. One, we're taking a chunk of wood and we're cutting it into various shapes and sizes. Two, we're assembling the wood. And three, we're smoothing it out and sanding it. To do that, really, all you need would be a chunk of wood, just like that. You want to cut the wood, various shapes and sizes. Hey, here's a handsaw that you can get for 10 or 15 bucks. You want to assemble your project, a bottle of wood glue. You don't need screws, you don't need nails, a hammer, anything like that. Finally, you got to smooth the wood out, and most of woodworking is about sanding. And hey, there's a sheet of sandpaper you can get for next to nothing. That's all woodworking is. But there is one fourth component that you need to know. The greatest tool of any is right here. If you can envision a project, that's all you need to do. You can make anything as long as you can figure out what it is you want to do. There's ways to do it. If all I need to build woodworking projects is a saw, glue, and some sandpaper, why is my shop filled with power tools? Therein lies the rub, as Hamlet is often misquoted as saying. I'm going to tell you why. And here's the secret that a lot of us woodworkers really don't like people to know, is that we don't have the ability to make woodworking projects using nothing but hand tools. Now, before you woodworkers start yelling at me and sending me angry comments about how you can't get into woodworking without first having a good foundation of hand tools and spending lots of time in elbow grease sawing wood and hammering nails, I'm here to dispel that myth, because we live in the 21st century and we use 21st century tools. And for the average woodworker to get started in woodworking, you got to have a few power tools. And that's not to say that I'm not totally in awe of these guys who can make incredible projects using nothing but hand tools. There are guys like that who can do it. And I'm in awe over, I can go to the San Francisco Museum Legion of Honor, and I can look at 17th century furniture that was made, armoires that were made with nothing but hand saws and chisels, and the tools were handmade. And I'm in awe of those guys. I could never even approach that, even with my power tools. I couldn't make projects like that because those guys knew that the inspiration was here. It wasn't about the tools. And those guys didn't sit around telling each other that you had to go back to the ancient Egyptians and use flint tools to make projects. In fact, those guys in the 17th century, if they were exposed to a modern table saw, they would have jumped all over it. It ain't about the tools, but we're products of our generation, and you want to use the tools that are right for the job. So let me get you guys started. Take this saw and walk it right over here to the trash, along with all the beer, and dump it in right now. You're not going to need that handsaw. You're never going to use it. I have that handsaw. I've used it about 3 times in my whole life. I would guess about 80% of all the wood cutting that you want to do, you can accomplish on a table saw. So that's going to be the first thing you're going to want to get as a new woodworker, is a table saw. Now, you don't have to spend a lot of money. This is a really, really crappy table saw. It's a skill saw, and it's not even a proper table saw. It's a contractor saw. And you can get something like this new for probably about $200. Remember, you'll take care of about 80% of your sawing with that one tool. The next tool you're really going to want to get is a router. And a router is used for making curves like this. With that, you're going to be making all kinds of picture frames. So here's my router. Now, this is also a really cheap, crappy router. It's a Ryobi that I picked up for probably around $50, $60. And I've got it mounted underneath my router table because I rarely do any hand routing, so it's almost always mounted on there. So if you get the router, spend another maybe $50, $60 on a router table. You can make your own if you're really ambitious. Someday I may do that. This is a Craftsman router table I picked up at Sears, and it allows you to mount it up in there so that you can make curved cuts on the table. Get yourself a router. Well, I probably should have explained that a router makes curved cuts that are rounded edges like this one. If you want to make curved cuts on a flat piece of wood and curve it around this way, say a big circle or something, you're going to need a tool such as a bandsaw. But you don't really have to get a bandsaw to start out with. You can start out with a handheld jigsaw, just like this one. This is a little skill saw, and you can pick this up for probably $30, and with that you can curve it around and make just about any kind of curved cut that you need to do. And like I said, most of woodworking, to me, it seems to be all about smoothing and sanding the work once you're almost done with it. So you're going to need some sandpaper, and you can use hand sandpaper if you want, and if you want to drive yourself crazy, do that. Or if you want to do it a more efficient way, get yourself a little hand sander. This is a Black & Decker mouse, and I've talked about this before. I really like this tool, and it just vibrates like that. And you can get a random orbit sander. I've got one of those, but I never use it as much as this Black & Decker mouse. You can pick up one of these mouse sanders for, I don't know, again, maybe $30 or so. Get yourself a good sander. Well, there you have it, guys. With those 4 basic tools, you can pretty much build almost anything. That's really all you need to get started in woodwork, and it's not going to cost you a lot of money. You can get all of those tools for probably $400 or $500, probably under that, maybe $400 for those. And think about it, that's not much money. If you take your wife away for the weekend, it's going to cost you more than that, and then phew, it's gone like that. You get those few tools, and you've got your shop started, and you can get it set up for a lifetime, and you're going to be making your wife gifts that she can have for her whole life. The next thing you want to do is you want to go to your local lumber yard or your big box store, and you pick up a couple of lengths of wood. You get some pine. It's really cheap, 3/4 inch lumber. You bring it home and you start cutting it. Go crazy with it. Think about what you can make with it. Envision it. Maybe make a box, just a simple box. It's pretty easy to make a simple box. You give it to somebody, they're going to love it. They're going to be amazed. Oh my gosh, he made a box for me. That's incredible. Have fun with it. Be safe. Use common sense. I mean, don't put your finger in front of a moving blade. I think all of us know that. You can be careful with wood. You envision your cuts and where your hands are going to be throughout the entire cut. You'll be fine. Well, for all of you people who were searching YouTube for how to get started in woodworking and found this video, I hope you found it at least a little bit helpful. And I would encourage you to go ahead and get started in woodworking. Have fun with it. Cut a bunch of wood. It's a learning process. You'll constantly grow at it and learn new skills. Thanks for watching my video, and send some comments to me. I'd love to hear them.